Hi guys, and welcome back to the Early Bird Photo News. It looks like Canon is finally innovating again in the telephoto sector. For really harsh, we could argue that ever since releasing the 100-500 a few years ago, Canon has really not done a lot of true innovation in that sector. They've released a few super telephoto lenses, the 400, the 600, the 800 and the 1200mm, but none of these lenses were really from the ground up new designs that got us really excited. They're fantastic lenses, but they're not as game-changing as the 100-500, for instance. This lens in particular has made my life so much easier in the field and has gotten me so many great photos and videos. So to me, that's the last sort of true innovation in the telephoto sector, where they made the lens smaller and added another 100mm compared to the 100-400mm lens. So when I was reading this week on Canon rumors that it's very likely Canon will release a 2.8 300mm lens in the first quarter of 2023, I was quite excited, especially when I was reading that it will be about 40% lighter and smaller than the current EF version. So that makes me hopeful that we will see some more new, from the ground up redeveloped super telephoto lenses, and hopefully some of that technology will also trickle into some more even better, even cooler telephoto lenses, maybe like a 200-500 with a built-in 1.4 converter down the track. And while I don't think we will see a lot of lenses as small as this guy, I'm quite hopeful that we will see some more awesome and small and lightweight super telephoto lenses soon. While for me personally, a 2.8 300 is not super interesting, because these days I probably prefer the 100-500 and the flexibility that comes with it over a shorter fixed prime lens. But at the same time, I'm really glad to see that lens coming out, because I know a lot of sports photographers, for instance, want it, and I also know a lot of nature photographers use it as a secondary lens, and I've done so in the past myself. I used to have a f4 600mm lens and a 2.8 300mm lens. Now, I often used it with the 1.4 or the 2x extender, and it was quite a nice light handheldable combo. Over the last few months, Nikon has really been the company that has been innovating in that super telephoto space with their cool lenses like 4.5 400mm, 5.6 500mm, that's a little bit older, and we saw the awesome 6.3 800mm and 2.8 400mm with a built-in 1.4 extender. So Nikon has definitely been driving the innovation in this space, but it's great for me to see that Canon is also still developing a whole bunch of stuff, and hopefully over the next 2 years we see some more amazing, nice, and hopefully not too expensive super telephoto lenses. One of the greatest encounters on my recent road trip was with these awesome southern cassowaries. There's a few spots in certain areas where they actually venture out on the beach to feed on fruit that's falling down from the trees onto the sand, so it's quite easy for them to actually pick it up and eat it. And when I got to the spot in the evening, it was beautiful, nice and sunny. But when I got up the next morning, it was just grey, drizzling, and actually later pouring down with rain, and I thought I might not get any photos at all. But then while having breakfast, I suddenly spotted a cassowary walking right past our cabin onto the beach. So I just grabbed my f5 100-500mm lens and ran onto the beach. It was still pouring rain, but the birds didn't seem to care, and so I didn't care, because I just wanted to get some cool images. And while I was quite disappointed at first with the weather, a few weeks later, we stayed there again with sunny conditions, and there were suddenly people absolutely everywhere on the beach. So in hindsight, having the rainy conditions actually allowed me to be on the beach by myself with the cassowaries and also get some cool scenes. So while the lens got really dirty, really wet, it performed flawlessly and got me some great images. And talking about these images, this week I was finally able to start to edit more of them. I already had edited the shot with a black background that I really liked, and I got this effect with the cassowary walking on the beach and the backdrop being the really dark rainforest. And because there's so much more light on the beach, I could underexpose to not overexpose the bright spots on the cassowary. And by underexposing like that, it actually made the background behind the bird really dark. And because there's lots of rain, it actually started to look like a night sky with the illuminated rain in front of that black background with that cassowary. So that's one image I really liked. Another image I really liked from this shoot was this image you see behind me here of the cassowary just picking up one of these nuts, throwing it in the air, and then swallowing it whole. And these nuts are actually quite big, like 3 or 4 of my fingers, and they just grab them and eat them in one bite. So that was pretty impressive to see, and I really wanted to capture that sort of action, and the 20 frames per second of the R5 really helped me in that regard. The biggest challenge here on this shoot was the conditions, because it was raining, a little bit hazy, and I have to use relative high ISO. So to get the images to look good, I ran them through DxO Pure Raw first, then opened them in Camera Raw, where I used one of my pro sets to get me to a great starting point, and then I run my workflow on the images that I teach you in my masterclass. In particular, on this other image here with the bird on the beach, I had to make a few selections of the bird to actually make it stand out a little bit more from the background without overdoing it. And I also darkened down the corner of the really bright sky on the top of the image, just to balance it out a little bit more. So I did a lot of selections of the bird and then darken that down manually with a few curves. So learning about selections and how to use curves is definitely something that I teach you, and that it's important to know if you want to make your images stand out as well. And if you want to learn about my pro sets and my masterclass and some other cool things, make sure to check all of these out down there in the description. Which one of these images is your favorite? The black background one, the one with the nut mid-air, or the wide shot of the Casio just walking on the beach? Over the last few months, if not years, photography has been slowly being pushed out more and more from Instagram. Instagram wants to focus on Reels, and that means that in return, the algorithm limits the reach and the accounts a lot of photography can reach. And that's obviously very frustrating for photographers. I have a relatively big account, but I also see a huge drop in the engagement on Instagram. If I post a photo, it gets a okay amount of engagement if it's a really great photo, and a very poor amount of engagement if it's a photo that I like, but that's not for the masses. However, if I post a reel that I may have already posted 5 or 10 times before, it will get a lot more engagement every single time. So that's quite frustrating for us as photographers, because we still want to share our photography as well and have it seen by other people and not be kind of punished for posting photos and not reels. So I'm personally not someone who just gives up, so I will focus on doing a few more reels in the future, although I just didn't have enough time at the moment. My main focus is YouTube, and then I post a little bit on Instagram, Twitter, and now Vero as well. So I just have to divide up my time, but I'm trying to find a way to do more reels for sure, because I still think Instagram is a valuable resource, even though it's definitely going the kind of way of Facebook by limiting the organic reach more and more and more. And this is where Vero comes in. I've actually been on there since 2018 when it became a really hot topic for a few months, but then fizzled out really quickly. So I'm a little bit skeptical if it will actually catch on this time, but there's definitely a lot of FOMO going on with literally everyone I've been following on Instagram also migrating over to Vero. I'm saying FOMO because I think that's what it's at the moment. Everyone's thinking, oh, what if Vero becomes the next big Instagram for photographer? I don't want to miss out. And I think that's a fair point, and it makes sense to actually join on there, even if it's just to teach Instagram that photos still have meaning for people and that we shouldn't just completely abandon photos. So if enough people will join on Vero, we can build a great community there, and we might also force Instagram to change the algorithm again. So basically there's not many negatives, except that you have to spend a little bit more time now posting on another platform. What actually got me to activate my old account again on Vero was a Peter McKinnon video that I watched last week, where he talked a little bit more about Vero, and I just thought, why not give it a go? There's really not much downside to it. And so I want to know from you guys, do you like Vero? Are you on Vero? Are you still on Instagram? What are your thoughts on those platforms? Personally, I must say I find Vero a little bit confusing to use, and I'm not quite sure how people can actually find you when you're not already following those people, because I'm trying to look for new photographers and new photos, and I really miss something like the Instagram Explore page, where I just get some suggestions of things that interest me, and I just see a selection of photos that I can click on, and by doing that, find a lot of people that I find interesting and want to follow. So I haven't really figured that fully out on Vero. It seems a little bit more difficult to kind of actually see other people's images that you're not following. So if you have a trick to find other cool new photographers, make sure to let me know, because I definitely want to learn more about the platform. So for now, I will post on there, although I must say that the whole user interface is a little bit more confusing to use, also with the whole connections thing and grouping people into different categories and posting to different categories. So in a way, it feels a lot more kind of small world, where the focus is really on your followers and the people you're following, which is not a bad thing, but I just wonder how it works in terms of growing, in terms of making Vero still viable when it becomes much bigger. So for now, I'm just playing around, trialing what it's like on there, and just see what happens. And hopefully if you're on there, and if you're on Instagram, and if you're on Twitter, make sure to follow me and let me know your handle so I can follow you back. There's not many other photo news this week. I just read on Nikon rumors that Amazon has a few Z9s available for sale that will ship first week of September. So it definitely seems like that the Z9 orders are almost all fulfilled, and now ordering a Z9 might only take you 2 or 3 weeks to actually get the camera, which is great news for many Nikon shooters. Are there many of you guys who are still waiting for the Z9? I don't think so. I think most people who are looking for one have also been able to get one by now. While scrolling through Nikon rumors, I also found this cool article of someone photographing mountain bike races with the 4.5 400mm lens. And I always said I'm not quite sure where this lens actually fits into the lineup, and I still stand by that, but it was interesting to actually see someone use the lens in the field because it seemed to deliver some great results with some great autofocusing on the Z9. Funnily enough though, he said that for mountain bikes the 4.5 400 is probably a little bit too long. And I always say for birds and wildlife, 4.5 400 is probably a little bit too short. So I still wonder where the true market for this lens is, but it's good to see it out in the field and people using it. And hopefully by seeing some more articles and videos of people using it, we can get a good idea where this lens actually slots in and how people feel about it. So like always, no Sony news. The only thing I could find was that Sony has recaptured the top spot in market share in Japan, pushing Canon back to number 2. I guess that's at least something. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see, hopefully later in the year or next year, when Sony will be coming out with some more cameras like the A7R5. Interestingly though, the top seller for Sony was the ZV-E10, the vlogging camera with no EVF. So I know I always make a bit of fun about these cameras, but they definitely seem to be the top sellers for all brands. So that's why Canon will likely release their own version very soon as well. So let's wrap up this week's early bird photo news. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to give me a thumbs up for this video. Check out my links down there in the description. Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe down there. And I will see you guys in the next video very soon. Bye.